So this is Baruch here at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel before the shir starts, this morning shir, on the concept of tzitzis, the secrets of tzitzis. To me, a very complicated issue. So here, what we're seeing, I just wanted to point out again what's going to be part of the subject here. There are four mochin in Abba and four mochin in Ima, and both of them enter into Zir Anpin. On the outside of the mochin of Ima, and on the inside of the mochin of Abba. Now, each one of the Malchim, and here we have Chochma, then it goes Bina, and this is the Chasad and the Das, and this is the Gevuras, the Das of Abba. So all of that are, so don't ask the question of what are all these letters all about, because I don't know. They're developed in some kind of way, not developed. They are, in fact, the Rishash is telling us that this is, in fact, what the Malchim look like. It's kind of a little bit hard to grasp. Then over here you have the Malchin of Ima. So this is the Chochmah of Ima, and this is the Bina of Ima, and this is the Chasad the Das, the Ima, and these are the Gevuros of Das of Ima. Both of these are to enter into Zah. And so we've been discussing, particularly this is going to talk, this we're going to discuss here about these, the Bina of Ima, entering into Zir Anpin. It said before that in the time of the blue and white, when we have, that is the blue and white, we have Techelis and white tzitzis, that that's the time of the Beis Hamikdosh, and there is a chiluf that takes place, whereby the lowest end of Abba, which is Bina, moves over and becomes the highest end of Ima. There's a switch that takes place, so that therefore Ima's highest end then goes up and becomes the lowest end of Abba. So these words may be a little bit difficult, but here's the idea: is just looking at it, something to meditate on, and we'll wait for the shir now. We'll just hold this. Shir will be coming. So just one other thing that I wanted to add, and I think it might be important for the shir later, is that we're going to be dealing with this, the Bina of Ima, which is like saying the Bina of Bina. And what the Malach looks like that we're talking about is composed of 32 letters. Now, in the piece that we've been learning up to now, it hasn't really been explained. Well, the concept is it's like the 32 Nesivos of Chochmah. So here we're dealing with, in this case, we're dealing with Ima, and we'll be talking about it, but there are 32 different parts here. But we said when there's a switch, there's only, this goes over here, and vice versa. This only has 31 letters in it. And that's where we got the idea of Techelis, which is also how Techelis helps that. I'm not sure that I understand. I know that he said that's what happens. Shalom and Vav. We started again now. This is a very difficult Indian for me because of the fact that well, let me just review some of the thoughts. This is not the Ma de Ma and the Ma de Ben idea. I saw yesterday that in the bracha for the month, for the new month, for this time of the year, this 6 months is all called Ma de Ma and Ma de Ben. So each one of them is like that. That, I have to assume, is referring to the yichud that takes place between Zer Anpin and the Nukba. I don't know, because what we're dealing with here is something, is all of the mochin coming in from Ima into Zer Anpin. The order that they come into, and with the condition as to whether or not it's the time of the Beis Hamikdosh, which I may be like a construct idea too. It's just, it means mamish that, but it maybe it also is, means just an abstract idea or a label that they put on different things. The time of the Beis Hamikdosh, there is a chiluf, and when there's not a Beis Hamikdosh, then there's no chiluf. And so then you had the problem with when there's a chiluf, which is the time of the Beis Hamikdosh, is that then you have the addition of the 31st string, the 32nd string, because there's only 31 letters in the mochin of the Bina of Abba that are going to go over there. So you need to make it 32. Now, none of that is really fleshed out at this point. Exactly what's wrong with 31? It's the name Kale. It's a chesed, So what's wrong with that? Why do you need it to be 32? And then particularly, why do you need Techelis? What does Techelis says? Techelis is Malchus, so therefore you put that in there, and that makes everything Shalom. And we're left with that. And that's where we're at right now. So now we're reading. I'm just going to read the blurb. Excuse me, just the intro at the top, and then I want to learn the tiv only. So he says, "Atam shezman hazeh she'ein lanu techelis." So now we have no techelis. Ina ma'akev v'salavim. But the fact that we don't have techelis, it doesn't hold back the lovin. I think maybe I'm reading in the wrong place. I'm in the wrong place. I'm sorry. Take it back. We're on page Reish Lamed Daled, and it's the Inyan that Tzitzit shenagu b'zman hazeh. That's where we're at. So we're reading here on number Kufayin Gimel, light print. So Atan Ivayr Harav as Inyan Hamochim Shalatzitzis Hanogim B'zman Hazeh. Shehem Hamoch Debina De'ima Shehem Arba Milui Aki. Now we saw this Milui Aki that comes out to be, if you take the four Miluyim, each one of them has 8 letters, that makes 32. So it's a 32. So this is the Bina. The way I see it is he's talking about the Bina of Bina. So Gavin Shat Tzitzis Sha'anu Nogim Bizman Hazeh, as these tzitzis nowadays, today, let's not nowadays, nowadays. Hey Ma'aras Hamochim Shal Hamochim Shal Bina De'ima. So they come from the Bina of Ima. These are the Ha'ara that we're getting is from the Bina De'ima. V'chein Heim Chutei Lovan B'li Techelis. So it wants to say that the Techelis comes as regard to Abba. So that is when Abba is part of the switch. So then he says, so if I'm wrong about that, let me know if you think not like this. He said, so since today, the shefa that we get is from the Muach Bina Avima. That's the main thing about the tzitzis. But according, really, the truth is, so you might have thought that it's I don't know. I guess he wants to say that there's no light coming from the chachma of which is, let me see his words is that is the chachma of ima. I'm not sure which one he means there. In a nipsak, but it says for the higher of the bisman is that it still keeps shining. Now I'm not sure if he means to say. I think he means just the regular chachma of ima. That's what I think he means, but I'm not sure. That is without a switch. Ba'arasa bisman hazel hu kamosha ha'hoyer muach ha'chachma de'ima bisman ba'is b'sod tzitzias techelis imalova. Well, he says that it's still the same kind of shining that you would have at the time of the Beis Hamikdosh when you have the techelis is added into it. Let me read his words again. Ba'arasa, that is the radiance that's coming from it, bisman hazeh. He kamosha ha'hoyer muach ha'chachma de'ima bisman habais. That is when the chachma of ima has been switched, and it's now the bina of Abba is now the chachma of ima. That's what I understand it. Habayit besod tzitzias the chelis imalovan, which is that. So still keep shining that same shafa. Now what? Do we have a switch here or not? I'm assuming that there is no switch. There's manazeh. So I'm trying to understand. Raksha hachiluk v'bein zaman habayis the bein zaman hazel de hagalos hushav zman habayis shoyet tzitzias chuti techela the love. And so since then you had the two different colors, blue and white. So that we actually caused this to happen. It was our actions. I guess he means to say down below. He's not specifying, I don't think, what the actions are exactly. Maybe the kavanah that we had there at the time of the Beis Hamikdosh. I don't know. But now she'ein lana b'tzitzis rak chut lava. But now we only have lava. That means that everything comes from bina. Lo yotzes arasas amuchim shal chachma de'ima al yedenu. So this light, that is the light which apparently represents that blue string, Eloki nimshecha v'yotze me'alechu, it comes by itself. Now this is very confusing. Exactly what he means. Does he mean that the switch takes place anyway, or does he mean that somehow? Let's try to find out. Somehow Abba continues to shine into Ima, and that's what he says. I can say something like that. But that the Chachma of Ima is also going to shine. Now I assume he means the right side of the original of Ima. Let's see what he means. So the fact that this comes out, he behislav shusa betzitzis hayotzis v'moach v'bina the Ima shehem hatzitzis dechut lava. He says, how does this take place? It takes place because panimi to the tzitzis, which are represented by the mocha bina, inside of them is the mocha chachma. So the fee masha be'arno. So according to what we explained previously, shemocha chachma de b'tzad ima yotze gam behislav shus hatzitzis b'mocha bina de b'tzad ima. Let me read it again. So what we explained before, that the mocha of chachma de b'tzad ima. Now, I'm not sure if he means before the chiluf or after the chiluf. But when it comes out, yotzes gam behislav shus hatzitzis b'mocha bina de b'tzad ima. So it's going to come out clothed in the tzitzis that come from the side of Ima. So he's over Kevin Shad tzitzis the chachma the Ima, mislavish but tzitzis the bina the Ima. So he says it's always like that. Abba rides inside of Ima, but he says the chachma of Ima is inside of the bina of Ima, shehem chutei alavan, which are all the white strings. B'fichach muchraksha b'chutei hatzitzis the bina. So those the Ima shehem chutei alavan levad. Bizman hazeh gam yihye remez letzitzis the chachma the Ima, but you'll still have a remez in them. Shehem halavan v'chatacheda b'zman shebesim b'tishkayim. So he means that there's still an aspect of the switch that's taking place even today. But it's not something that we're bringing about, but it's coming about by itself. That seems to be what he's saying. This phrase that he uses where he says the chachma, the ima, when he talks about the chachma, the ima, and then he says that the techelis, there also was lovan and techelis, that means the chachma, the ima, he means after the switch. So in between the switches, I'm pretty switched up. So let's go on and see if we can get some more facts out of this. He says ukavi mashin is moyer be'inyan natzitzios. So now what we're explaining here, hayotzes mamuach hachma the ima, that are coming from the muach hachma the ima. I think he means shehem hatachelid v'alavam, which means at the time of the Beis Hamikdosh or after the chiluf. Shehem arbacha b'milu Yaakov. They're the four miluim of the word of the name Yaakov, which were 4, but they come out to be 31. So now we're back to that. And it seems to be that he has been saying that this continues to shine even today when our basic relationship is with only Bina, the Bina of Ima. Now, and this happens how? Not by anything that we do, it's just happening. So I'm not sure. Kain al zera v'chaseder ku ba'arba tzitzios. So they have the same order here with the 4 tzitzios shehem b'chutei alavan levad. There's hayotzei ma'arba b'mocha mekoludim b'mocha bina de'ima shehem arba milui aki. So let me read it one again. Read it again. Kain al zera seder. So the same thing. What seder? I'm not sure what he's talking about. That is the mixing of the chachma of Ima into the bina of Ima. This seder who ba'arba tzitzios shehem chutei halavan levad. This whole thing has to do with the fact that I guess nowadays that we only have white. Hayotzim ma'arba b'mocha makolula b'moch bina, which are the 4 mochin that are part of the bina, just the bina of bina. the ima shehem arba milui aki, which comes out to be 32 different letters. Now, okay, it became in she'ata bismana churban. So now, at the time when the churban is taking place, ein bana koach lachamshech es ha'aras ha'mochem el rak ad bina de'ima levad. Once again, the words are that nowadays, after the churban, we're only able to what hamshech to extend down, or I guess pull down to ourselves es ha'aras ha'mochem, just the radiance that comes from these mochim el rak ad bina, only to bina levad. So we only have a relationship. I guess he says a direct relationship with bina, maybe something like that. We don't have the ability to be able to pull down mochin from a higher place. The difference between the tzitzis that have to do with the muach of chachma, the tzitzis the muach of binahu. Now here again, I think he means that it would be the bina of Abba becoming the chachma of Ima. So what's the difference between them? Which we know that they are the milui of these three letters, Yud, K, and Vav. So when you're dealing with what he's calling here, and I just think that it's a tough way to call it, but as we're calling it, with what he's calling it, the Chochma Bina, he means after the Chiluf. So he said when you do the Chiluf, you find out that what the letters are for there are only 31 letters. So he said, so there you have to have 32, that's the rule. So over there you add in this purple or this blue string. Shagaba Natachela's Rum is the Malchus, and there's his answer again. He said because Malchus, I guess, he wants to say is a finisher. Is that, I mean, what's shot there? He said because of the how does it you put in this Techelis, and now it's because it represents Malchus, and now you have 32. I mean, is that the same idea as like he says, like time he's doing gematrias? And he says, with the kolel, it makes this number. So it's the same idea. So you said with the kolel is what? The kolel is malchus. So the malchus has to be that it's this techelis. Okay. Anyway, going on, I'm trying to make sense. The mechabrim as chuta techelis im chuta halom, and that's where you join them together. Bezos mechabrim as a malchus yachad in a malchim. So this is what you're doing. You're making malchus, which is, I guess, the completion, the concept of completion, and that's actually the last letter, so to speak, or filling in the last letter to make the number 32. So it's, I guess, the bottom of the bottom. Imamochin. That's the best I could get out of it right now. B'mochim shall bina de b'tzadima. But when we're talking about the mochin of bina de b'tzadima, so that's just without the chiluk. Sham yesh lamed besos yes the shlemos ve'ein sork lahashlimim like the rebechut shalat techela. So as far as bina is concerned, you don't need to have anything added to it because it's already 32. So this concept of 32 is really important here. Lamed besos here shalom mochin the bina de b'tzadima. So these 32 that are on the side of ima, heim ba'arba b'mochim sheyesh b'bina de ima. They're in the four mochin that are in the ima de bina. So in other words, Bina is she has is one of the four mochin, and then she has four mochin within inside of her. Shehem arba milui aki. So making the meaning of that set. Hem rumazin l'lamed beis chutin. This is really a reference to the 32 different threads, strings. Ashiyesh b'tzitzis b'zman hazeh. So he wants to say, he wants to tie those two ideas together. That the tzitzis of the zman hazeh. There are 32 of them, 32 strings altogether, and that 32 it has certain abilities which I haven't quite got. Okay, let's go a little bit more. We have number kuf to kuf number tzadi test. So he says then he said that we have now who kulu lava below the chelis. No. V'kemen sheyesh lamed beis chutin the ben tzitzis lovan. Excuse me. Since there's 32 white strings, shenog bezman hazeh shehem memochin the bina the betzad ima. Because why? Because bina is purely white. V'chein ein sorach el chut hatchelis. So therefore you don't need it. You have already the 32, and they're concentrating. So apparently he's teaching the idea of 32 to the strings function in the number 32 because there's 4 times 8. So therefore, if we're adding the milking onto it, then we have to have 31 and then adding one more. So he says shachut atchelis hu malchus. So he says the chelis is malchus. Vein sorch lachar shlimem ayidech atchelis shu malchus. So he says you don't have to do that because they're shalom. So once they're automatically 32, they must have a malchus dika aspect to them. They're complete. Keven shekabar yesh lamed beis chutin b'chutz alavan. So this is already that. Okay, that's going to be that shear now. And let me stop.